The morning they froze my bank accounts, I knew my life had been carefully dismantled. By noon, my face was circulating across financial news platforms. By evening, security had escorted me out of the headquarters of the company I built from nothing. The man standing beside the board, presenting printed evidence with a calm voice and steady hands, was my co-founder, my partner, my closest professional ally for 5 years. And he was accusing me of fraud. His name was Adrian Cole. And he thought I wouldn't fight back. My name is Isabella Hartley. I didn't come from wealth. I grew up in Leeds, raised by a schoolteacher mother and a nurse father who believed in discipline more than comfort. I earned scholarships, worked part-time through university, and built my first financial model on a borrowed laptop. At 29, I co-founded Halcyon Bridge, a fintech platform designed to help small businesses access ethical funding without being destroyed by predatory lending. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. And honesty surprisingly scales well. Adrian handled investors. He was polished, confident, comfortable in expensive rooms filled with venture capitalists. I handled systems, compliance, infrastructure. I built the architecture that made our company secure. I designed every layer of digital authorization, every audit log, every authentication barrier. He was the face. I was the foundation. For 5 years it worked. We expanded from Manchester to London, then into New York. Our valuation crossed £80 million. Articles called us a disruptive force in ethical finance. Panels invited Adrian to speak. They often described me as the technical genius behind the scenes. I didn't mind being behind the scenes. I preferred control over attention. But success changes dynamics. Adrian began holding investor dinners without informing me. Board meetings were rescheduled without my input. Documents appeared requiring approval that I had never reviewed. When I confronted him, he smiled like I was overreacting. "Bella, scaling requires flexibility," he would say. "Let me handle the politics." Politics. That word again. Then came the first crack. Our CFO called me one afternoon hesitant. "There are fund transfers authorized under your credentials that don't align with your usual activity." I checked the system immediately. Large internal movements had been approved through my digital signature. Except I hadn't logged in during those timestamps. I felt cold. Not panicked. Not yet. 3 weeks later, the board meeting happened. I walked into the glass conference room overlooking Canary Wharf and instantly sensed the shift. No smiles. No casual greetings. Adrian stood at the front with printed reports. "We've identified serious financial discrepancies," he said calmly. "All traced to Isabella's authorization access. Fraud. That was the word they used. I actually laughed at first, thinking it was a misunderstanding. That laughter faded when the bank froze my personal accounts. It disappeared completely when journalists began emailing. Headlines spread fast. Fintech founder under investigation for fraud. Not co-founder. Founder. Singular blame is easier to sell. Within 72 hours I was suspended. Security walked me out. Employees avoided my eyes. Investors issued cautious statements about ongoing review. Adrian gave interviews about corporate responsibility. He positioned himself as the man cleaning up internal corruption. Humiliation is heavy. It presses against your chest and makes breathing feel optional. For days I barely left my flat. My phone stopped ringing. Messages slowed. My mother called quietly and asked, "Is it true?" That question hurt more than the accusations. But humiliation sharpens the mind. And once the emotional fog cleared, I remembered something important. I built the system. Every compliance protocol. Every digital trace architecture. Every mirrored backup required for U.S. regulatory expansion. When we expanded into New York, I implemented an offshore compliance server. A shadow archive that recorded metadata beyond standard executive dashboards. If someone accessed my credentials remotely, it would leave fingerprints. Adrian had deleted visible logs. He forgot the invisible ones. I didn't go public. I didn't defend myself online. I hired a forensic data analyst in New York and a litigation firm in London. Quietly, we reconstructed back-end activity. The evidence was precise. Unauthorized credential access traced to a private IP address in Kensington. Adrian's residence. Timestamped overrides. Authentication reroutes. Signature cloning. Then we found the email. Adrian writing to a private investor. Market confidence improves with singular leadership optics. Removing her stabilizes growth ahead of Series C. Removing her. Not investigating. Removing. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. He framed me to consolidate power before the next funding round. So I responded strategically. I filed a wrongful dismissal and corporate fraud case in the High Court. Adrian publicly dismissed it as retaliation. Until disclosure began. In court, my legal team presented the mirrored compliance logs. The forensic analyst explained the credential manipulation. The IP trace appeared on screen. Then the email was read aloud. The courtroom shifted. The judge's expression hardened. Board members avoided looking at Adrian. For the first time since the accusations, he wasn't speaking confidently. Regulators launched an independent audit. Investors demanded clarity. Within weeks, Adrian was removed as CEO pending investigation. But I didn't ask for my old role back. I asked for equity liquidation and intellectual property rights connected to the compliance infrastructure I built. Because while they were fighting publicly, I was building privately. During suspension, I had already started developing a new platform. Cleaner. Transparent. Fully governed by multi-signature executive oversight. No silent overrides. No single-point power. 6 months later, I launched Etherledger in New York. It scaled faster than Halcyon Bridge ever did. Major U.S. investors backed it publicly. Interviews returned. This time focused on resilience, governance, and female leadership in finance. The final moment came at a London fintech summit. I was invited as keynote speaker. Adrian attended as an observer. No title. No stage access. Just a name badge. When I stepped onto the stage, the audience stood. A standing ovation. During my speech, I didn't mention him. I didn't need to. I simply said, leadership built on deception collapses under documentation. The room understood. Revenge isn't shouting. It isn't chaos. It's preparation. It's patience. It's building systems strong enough to survive betrayal. He tried to erase me. Instead, he exposed himself. They applauded him when I was accused. They applauded me when the truth surfaced. The difference? This time the applause was earned. My name is Isabella Hartley. And I don't disappear when challenged. I rebuild stronger.